Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing good. So today we are doing something different, just a little bit different, in the sense that I'm not taking inspiration from references or following a suggestion, but rather recreating something from another game. And that game is Club Penguin. If you don't know what Club Penguin is, or rather what it was, since it closed down, it was an online game that was very popular like over 10 years ago, which you didn't have to download. You simply opened a browser tab and logged in, where you could quite literally be a penguin. And you had this snow-covered world with a lot of places to explore. There were dozens of mini games, and you can even personalize your own penguin. And everyone had their own igloo, which was also customizable. And you could have pets, which I think were called puffles, if I remember correctly. And you could also chat with people and visit their igloos. I remember that you could become a samurai or a secret agent, and I think those were my favorite things to do in the game. My favorite minigame was the sled racing one. The pizza making minigame was also cool, but anxiety inducing, at least to me it was. But yeah, a lot of great childhood memories from this game. And this idea came to me when I was scrolling through Twitter, as one does, and I came across this picture of the town center from Club Penguin, which is the picture I put there in the bottom of the screen. And I thought, wait a minute, what if I recreated this in The Sims? So yeah, that's where this idea comes from. The references I used to build the town center aren't actually the original art in the game. At some point, they redesigned a lot of scenarios in the game, and that is what I based myself on, the redesigns, or the updates, rather. The images that you see that I will put throughout the video are only from the updated designs they did, and not the original ones. So for this build, I wanted to make it look like the original thing, which is always a challenge because we're talking about two very different games. The main difference being that Club Penguin was a two-dimensional game, I think except maybe from the penguins, which were 3D, and The Sims is 3D, so essentially this build is a recreation instead of a conversion, meaning that I had to adapt to The Sims' constraints. So, if that makes sense. So I can't do exactly as it is. I've talked about this in the past. It's like a translation. It's never um, the same as the original, but it gets close to it. And I hope this does to you. But yeah, right off the bat, you can see in the original picture that the buildings are on a slight angle, the ones on either side, and that isn't possible in The Sims. I didn't want to make the buildings on a diagonal because I think it was too harsh if I had made that. So I kept them side by side, which, interesting enough, is what they looked like in the original game art. And so I went from there. Uh, the exterior I struggled the most was definitely the dance club, this one I'm doing right now, or the nightclub, just because we don't have a lot of architectural elements that resemble what the building in Club Penguin looks like. I'm not mad when this happens because I get to look for solutions, and it can be time consuming, but it's always a challenge that I gladly take and try to resolve. But the interior I struggled with the most, funny enough, was the clothes shop, which they renamed at some point from previously being called gift shop, I think. Another challenge was the proportions. So since it is a 2D game, the exterior doesn't necessarily match the interior, meaning that when you walk in into one of these buildings, the windows are placed differently, or the door is in the middle instead of being placed to the side of the building. The stairs that lead to the second floor look on a different angle when you're on the second floor, that sort of thing. And because of that, I had to adapt, and so I took the liberty to change some things while still trying to make it resemble the original as much as possible. Also, for the interiors, we only have one angle of all the rooms, so I get to be creative sometimes, since we can only see 3 walls on the interiors. There's always one wall that we don't see, and I had to come up with my own, try to imagine what would be there. As you can see in the coffee shop, which is the building to the left, we don't exactly have a newspaper in the game, so I used the open notebook to kind of make that sign there. And in the nightclub, I tried to recreate a mirror ball later on, and I'm actually pleased with the way it turned out. But yeah, I'm really happy that I got to build this, since I have fond memories from this game. And let me know if you ever played, or if you got to play it. I'm really curious to know how many of you know this game, and I want to know if Club Penguin is already considered something from quote-unquote back in the day. And this here is the mirror ball. I basically used this round fountain object. I raised it up and then grabbed some Realm of Magic debug items, which look like colored lights. And basically I sized them up and placed them inside the ball, which make it look like it's glowing with colors. Let me know what you think of this idea, if it remotely resembles a mirror ball. I think with what we have in the game, it was a cool solution. But yeah, what I was saying about the game, I want to know if this game, Club Penguin, is considered a back in the day sort of thing. I wouldn't say so, but since it is shut down, I think it has been for a few years, I don't expect many people to know it, especially the younger generations. So if you're interested to know more about the game, I will link in the description a Club Penguin wiki where you can find all the information about the game. And it's also where I got the reference images from. So it's a very handy website. On the interiors themselves, they came together pretty easily, since I tried as much as I could to replicate the clutter and the colors. I only had to pick what resembled the most from the original picture, or what had the same colors as in Club Penguin. And I will say that if it had been me designing the place, I would have done something totally different. But I really wanted to challenge myself to make it look like the original. And it's also a different build because I rarely build with snow, and I think it makes the world look pretty. And yeah, I also use the tool mod a lot, which is a mod that lets us rotate, scale, elevate, and place objects freely. And I say this because this build wasn't necessarily made with playability in mind. I did not play test it, since I expect some parts of it to be inaccessible, like the counter here in the coffee shop, which I am building right now. I placed some other counters against the wall, like this. And I also sized down some regular counters. So I don't think Sims can get behind there, but I think it's a matter of just moving or deleting those counters out of there. I just really wanted to have those coffee machines and teapots in the back, just so it could look more like the original. As you can see, the original has some juice machines there. It has an espresso machine. So I went for that look, as always. I was trying to make it look loyal. And here I'm placing some paintings. As you can see, the original has a few. I used the clown painting just because I never use it. And I thought, well, which build is better to place it rather than this one. And this thing on the bottom of the image on the left, we don't have something like this in the game. I struggled thinking what I could do instead, so I placed this object, which I think came from high school years, which is like a food stand, and I placed it there just to have something close to the original. And I also placed the strawberries on the table. As you can see, the original has them as well. And I also placed this sign just because it looked a little bit to me like the sign that's on the picture. And this game had a lot of random things placed in random places because they had mini games. And yeah, I think that was one of the mini games. And inside this building, above the coffee shop, is the Club Penguin Times, which is, or was, the office. It's where they made the newspaper. And as you can see, the stairs don't really make sense because on the bottom floor, they're going one way, and here they are in a different way. So it's like they would have to come up from the other side. And considering the positioning of the windows, it wouldn't make sense. So I placed windows also on the back of the building, and I built like this, or with this perspective. I ended up placing a door there just because I thought I couldn't leave that there. And since I'm building with this angle, I wanted it to look as close as possible. But yeah, we put some clutter here. I tried to place the exact same clutter I see in the picture. So the paper there, it's because there was paper on the image, and the mugs there, it's because they were also on the references. And yeah, I think that was the way that I found to make it immersive. And you'll let me know as well if you think it makes sense, and if it does. Again, for the sign there that says Club Penguin Times, I thought of placing some fish there just because the original has them. But then I found this sign, I think it's from the Strangerville game pack, and it has had some books in it, and I thought, that makes sense to put in here in this room. And now we move over to this elevated part, which I think, or in my mind, was the CEO spot, even though Club Penguin didn't have any CEOs, right? Well, at least I don't think so. I was too young when I played that, so I don't exactly remember. But yeah, I include the typewriter even though it is closed off. I'm not sure how to say it, but the weirdest feature in this room was, I think, the printer. As you can see, there's a printer that prints the newspaper. We have nothing that resembles it in the game, so I used this object. I think it was the best we could do, and I thought about creating a printer, but it would be too time consuming, and I don't think it would look that good in the end. So I placed that other item there, and here we are putting some posters on that board. And now we move over to the nightclub. I think, I don't know why, but I think it might be my least favorite interior in The Sims of all of them. As you can see, we have this angle that is from the back of the build, and the door is on the left. However, that's not what happens in the game. The door is where supposedly we are looking from. So later on, I do add a door to the left. Again, it's the thing where I want it to look like the real deal. So, and the interiors don't exactly match the outside. So I had to improvise and adapt, but I think it looks alright in the end. I use this DJ table, is that how you say it? DJ booth? Because I've never used it. It looks kind of futuristic, but it seemed really on brand for this build, especially for this nightclub. And something that I noticed while building this that I hadn't when I played the game was how many columns and lights there were in like the art that they did, and also neon lights. Because I had to look closely and replicate, I realized, wow, there are so many of them, so many of those objects. But yeah, it was kind of nostalgic going back to this universe, and also editing this video. I'm looking at some references and Googling some other mini games, and I don't know, it's just really good to come back to a simpler time. And what I mean by simpler time is a time when I was younger, and I was you know, my worries were if my igloo looked nice on the internet and not paying bills and that sort of stuff. Yeah, here I'm swapping the screen for this one just because it had some speakers. I think it looked more realistic to have in a club, and also the original build has some speakers there. I mean, the original reference has some speakers there, so it made more sense to me. And overall, it looks okay, I would say. It's a difficult thing to replicate in The Sims. And these chairs, they don't exactly look like the one in the references, but I think they look cool, and I've never used them. To me, they made sense in a semi-futuristic build like this, with a lot of colors and a weird layout, in my opinion. I placed that poster there because I thought it looked like they did a costume night in the club. I think it looked nice. And here we are on the arcade. Again, not my favorite place in the whole build. Especially because we don't have a round floor like that you can see through. And also because I couldn't make a round flooring pattern, so I went with a regular squarish pattern. I think it looks okay. The colors are very all over the place, even in the original, and we don't have like individual gaming machines. What do you call them? These arcade games. We only have this one object, which is already good that we have it. So I placed 2 of them there. And we also placed the tables that are here with some clutter on them. I just grabbed bottles and I think cups and cans. And instead of placing the individual arcades, I placed some more of those vending machines that came with Noise Escape, just to give it a similar look and feel. And in the wall that we can't see in the image, I added a bar here. It made sense with the tables, I think. And just so I didn't want to leave it bare, so that's what I placed in there. And here we are on the final interior, which is the clothes shop. Now, this was a challenge because none of it made sense in my head. As you can see, the door there is, well, it's not on the center, but it's on a weird angle. And then you have this walkway in the middle of the store that has platforms, and I knew I was going to struggle with it. But this is the solution I came up with. This round object is a fountain feature. I think it's a decorative object. And I used it to make like the round part of the runway. And I made a custom star to put on the floor with these, I think, spa living objects. And I cut a little bit of it out because I had to make it almost look perfect, and I took a while to do that. I had to move the pieces around, but I think it looked okay in the end. And this part here from the outside is where the mannequins are with clothings. And I was looking at the image and thinking, it doesn't make sense because there's no display for the mannequins. And if you look closely at the picture, you see that this wall where the runway comes from is a bit in. So I thought to put the mannequins in there on display. And since this is the only building that doesn't have a second floor, I just cut out the ceiling and made it a double height room, which I don't think is the case in the original, but again, the interior is very different from the exterior. And I know that if I had started making the interior first, so from the inside out, the outside would have looked so different. But I don't know, I think this is the best option I had, to do the outside first and then the interior. And here, to make these clothes on the side, as you can see there, I used this object, but then I sized it down because it didn't look like the original and it was too big. I sized them down and then I placed this rod, this curtain rod. And I think it looked better than having those objects there. They were too chunky, and I wanted to fit both of those clothes racks there. And we place here the treasure. There was a treasure that resembled more, but it had algae and it was like a under the sea type of thing. I didn't want to include that. It looked weird. But I mean, it's a game, so I had to make this custom shelving display thing. The original has it, has something of the sort. It looks more modern, but as I said, I had to take the liberty of doing some things. I don't know if it would have looked good with like lights in the back of them, so I left it simple. Here we are doing some chairs. I suppose when you're trying clothes out, you can bring your friends and they're like in the movies, they'll say, "Ooh, you look so good." And here, as you can see in the bottom left corner, there are like these powder tables. I was gonna use the objects that come with the game, but then I did a custom one because I wanted to use that mirror, just because it looks the same. And then, as you can see in the top part, there's like clothing in display. And in my mind, I was like, how am I gonna do this? So yeah, I grabbed those objects that are just shirts piled on top of one another and rotated them with the tool, elevated them, and I used a spade object as well to make like the backdrop of the clothing. And here I am just adjusting a lot of the things that I did, so I shortened that part there. And I'm just finishing up some touches, putting chairs, and I put the clothing racks there at the back as well, some more cluttered. But yeah, we don't have an object that looks like what we have there. Oh, and this is the fish. I was thinking, we don't have any fish hanging from the ceiling in the game, but we do. Gladly, it came with for rent, right? I think. And so I just had to include it there. And yeah, let's jump into the game and see what it looks like. So here we are on the final build, and what are we thinking? The building is actually positioned backwards, just because this side here would be the front of the lot, but the lighting here is weird. It just looks better like this. There's the mirror ball there. The back is very simple, just because I didn't know it was there, and I covered this blank building with the tree there. But yeah, let's take a look in and see how they resemble the original. Okay, let's do a comparison side by side. What do we think of this and the original? Does it look alike? Considering everything, I think it does look quite nice and resembles in the game. And in the back here, we don't have access to this wall in the game, but I just placed some more windows and a door that leads outside. And now let's check the upstairs. So this is the upstairs, this is the entrance area. I only placed 2 of these tables because 4 was overkill. And this side is the quote-unquote CEO part. I think it looks alright, especially if you look from above, from this point of view. It looks okay, I would say. I didn't include here on the right a painting like it has, just because this is the front of the building and it has some windows. But yeah, let me know what you think of this one. Here we are at the club. I'm noticing in the picture there's way more blue, but I think I prefer the pink hues in this face better. A close-up of the DJ booth. As I said, not my favorite room of all of them, but we have a sitting area. Yeah, let's check the upstairs. And here's the gaming room or the arcade. It looks fine to me as well. Considering what we had to do, I think this was our best option, and I included these penguins just as a note to the original game. Of course, we don't know what this wall had in the original game just because it didn't exist. So I added a bar, some juices, and yeah, I put the penguins as a way to honor the original game. And it made sense to have penguins in a Club Penguin build, right? And here we are in the final one, which is the clothes store. I think this is the one that came out the best, as well as the coffee shop. These two are my favorite. I think this one actually looks like, well, kind of like the real deal. Let me know which one was your favorite, which one you think resembles the most. Let me know, I'm so curious to know. I hope you like this nostalgia throwback. Let me know what you think of it, if you like it, and if you have any suggestions for me, let me know in the comments. I love to know your opinions, and also if you have any suggestions, you can also let me know. I have some builds planned already, some ideas in my head, and I'm always on the look for trying new things, so let me know. Every comment is very appreciated. I want you to know that. And to me, just having people watching my videos is already so good. It blows my mind that hundreds of people watch them. So thank you so much for, even if you don't comment and you watch silently, that's such a, to me, that's so crazy that hundreds of people do that. So thank you everyone for your comments, for watching, and for subscribing. I hope you have a good one, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.